Obviously, talk to the camera, talk to me. Whatever.
Okay.
Good morning, guys. Coach Daniel Chamberlain here, Coaching 101 podcast. We are live at the Kentucky Athletic Administrators Association Conference. That is a mouthful.
That is a very big mouthful, that's for sure.
We're in Louisville, Kentucky, over at the Marriott East. So if you're in the area, please, come by, come say hi. You can come look at the podcast setup. Come get live on the air if you want to. We don't care. We're game for everything. Quickly want to shout out Ace Sports. That's our sponsor. That's who flew us all the way up here to come talk football at this big conference. They have a giant 10-foot by 20-foot board here that I just really want to play like Madden or Call of Duty. It needs something going on the big board. But that's where we're at this morning. That's what we're doing. We are joined by Coach McPeek this morning. Coach, Kenny Simpson said you're like one of the best dudes in the state of Kentucky. So
I don't know about that, but I know Kenny. I've enjoyed getting to know him and learn a lot about football from him. So we've had a ball getting to know him, and he's kind of lit a fire under me and a new little angle of football, and so I've enjoyed getting to know him, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So it's been a lot of fun.
Him and Jamie, I've called them the power couple since I met them. They are absolutely amazing. I love both of them to death. Glad our paths have all crossed. Let's hear a little bit about you, Coach. Tell us your story, man.
Well, this will be starting my 37th year of coaching football. Played in college at Morehead State University. I'm from Flatwoods, Kentucky, a little town. Nobody knows where it's at except they know Billy Ray Cyrus. So I actually went to high school with Billy Ray Cyrus. So,
Did he have the nice mullet back then?
So we're known for absolutely. He was actually a pretty good linebacker. So, but played there. Played for legendary coach Ivan McGlone. Then got to go to Morehead State. Had a great experience there, and then started my coaching career in Georgia, and then been all across the state of Kentucky and back again. And so at Paris High School right now. Having a ball, coaching with my first quarterback ever, Dane Dameron, won a national championship at Georgetown College back, and so he's come back to the high school ranks. So we're excited about getting a Paris program going and Hustling Hounds and the tradition. And shout out to Bill Arnsparger and our Blanton Collier, both those guys coaching NFL. Blanton Collier was in charge of the no-name defense. So, and he's a Paris grad. So shout out to those guys on NFL draft day. And so it's just a great day for football. Appreciate Ace being here. And this is not a massive board. It's a humongous board. It's awesome. You can tell everything's a little bit bigger in Texas, and they do it the right way. And so it's awesome. So it's been great to get to know RJ and Mark and look forward to working with them in the future.
Yeah. I bumped into Mark for the first time about 3 years ago at Kenny's, the Batesville Clinic for the Gun Tea, of course. And, man, I've had a wonderful time just getting to know their product and, like, trying to sell. I tell every coach out there, this is the cheat code in fundraising is everyone wants, like, passive income. Like, that's the way to do it in sports. You go out and set up 5, 6, 7-year contracts and then just let them pay you. And they get ads and you get monies and your everything grows. So.
Well, everybody's looking to build partnerships in community. And, and you put signs, you do all those things, which all those things are still good. But, kids are instantaneous and they want to see things like this on the boards. We're having a huge event tonight at our field, and we're showing the draft on our Jumbotron. And, just ways to bring the community together and you could merge those gaps and build partnerships
right.
with local vendors and those guys. And they get a little more bang for the buck.
The uses for a board like this, I know we're going to go into an Ace Sports thing here for just a minute, but it really is like unlimited. We were talking yesterday about just like if your team's playing away in a big game and people can't travel, you can have a watch party or put the Super Bowl on or, right? It's like the board is so multi-use. It's kind of great. You can have a Jaws night and have everybody bring floaties and sit in the field and watch Jaws, like there's so many cool things to do.
Yeah, I think your only limitation, your imagination with it. You can do a lot of things. And like I said, kids are drawn to it. Xbox tournaments, whatever you want
to do.
I
say, if you aren't having a Madden tournament on your field, you're missing out. Like, that's got to be the next thing.
No question.
Sweet, man. Well, you kind of brought up what you guys are doing. You went to, you said a 1A school yesterday, right? Obviously, we had a conversation yesterday for several hours. Small school ball, so you're going to see every level of football now.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Going back to single A, I was actually a single A head coach years ago, and it's probably the most fun I've ever had coaching those kids. And then, had the opportunity in 2020 after I retired from Kentucky to go to Valdosta High and coach at the winningest program in the nation. That was a lot of fun, and be on Netflix and go through that whole Titletown deal. So that was a lot of fun. Learned a lot. And then Coach Walt Wells, the head football coach at Eastern Kentucky University, gave me an opportunity to come and work there in that prestigious program that Roy Kidd built, and legendary Roy Kidd. So had a chance to do that, and just a lot of fun. And so it's been a great journey, and I've tried to put joy in it every day, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Since you've been at the game for so long, 37 years is a whole bunch of years. I kind of want to talk about just the state of football, where we're at right now. We discussed a little bit yesterday, just schemes changing and things are, football got out of the phone booth. Now it's trying to creep back into the phone booth. And we talked about the success of things like the Gun Tee program, right? Because you're just putting some extra bodies on the field. 7-on-7 world, and we're playing, big boy football. Yeah. What's your view on where football is, kind of where it's going to go?
I think for the first time ever, and Tony Franklin said this several years ago, I think football is going the other way. So it used to be that NFL pushed things down to the colleges and colleges to the high school. I think you see the RPO game and all that's going on with that, and you see those concepts move from college now up to the NFL. Yeah. And with that, and then some things that they're doing in Baltimore with the run game with those running quarterbacks. So it's been fun to see it. I think schemes change, all those kind of things change. I think kids, the relationships with kids are still the most important thing. And I say kids, I mean it's student athletes, adults, whatever level you're at. It wasn't any different, whether you're at college level or coaching single A or helping raise my grandkids. It's all about relationships and being honest with them. I think it's turned into it's all about me deal, and it's not going to last long with the NILs and all those kind of things. Still, the heart of the game is the heart of the game, and it's a tough game played by tough people, and it's not going to change. That's not going to change. So we're in a situation now working through this portal and transfer and instant gratification, and I don't know how much we're getting out of that. And like I said, I don't know how long it's going to last, but everybody knows sometimes you got to grit your teeth and stay. And we've all been there as a freshman, and you've got to work your way through. Yeah. Didn't have many options when I played. You either figured it out or you didn't get to play. That transferring and sitting out. So that bothers me a little bit that you're able I think the portal is kind of the new I quit. And you see a lot of guys go in the portal and they don't go anywhere, and that's the new way out. There's good things, there's bad things. People, I think, get to reset their careers. So, but it's definitely changed the whole complexity of college and everything. And I think you're going to see contracts and all those kind of things come about because of it.
Yeah, the money is not unlimited, right? Like at some point, without a salary cap, without something protecting the monies, I think it will just eventually fizzle out, and it'll be a sad day because I think we've came a long ways from the kids needed something. They needed some give back. The universities, the NCAAs just packing monies away, and the kids weren't getting anything. Torn ACLs and sorry about your career.
Right.
A college degree, which you can turn into a lot of money, but honestly, we've watered that down with our society. Everybody goes to college, and now they're not worth anything. So I think it will fizzle out. We'll get back to, like you said, the heart of the game and just who wants to go out and compete and play and kind of earn that spot.
And I think you're starting to see schools realize that. And at the end of the day, they don't want to admit it, but it's a business.
Yeah.
And, it's all about ROI, what's your return on investment. And those folks that are donating that money, and I think you're starting to see some trickle down where it used to go to facilities and it used to go to buildings. Now it's going to players, and it's going to be interesting to see how long that lasts too. So I think contracts will come in, and you say I'm going to do this X, Y, Z, then you're going to hold to a standard of X, Y, Z, and so I think that's where you're headed to that, and I think the NCAA probably just said, okay, go ahead, let's see what you do with this, and kind of washed their hands of it. And now, obviously abuse leads to restriction. Yeah. And you're seeing some of that with players just moving every semester, and so I think you're going to start to see some restrictions because of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I did see a statistic yesterday, something like 10,000 kids in the portal right now from all the classifications, and I think year over year about 65% of those never come out. That's a crazy stat to think.
Yeah, that's like I said. I think it becomes a new I quit, yeah. And it's an easy way to say, I'm done. And I'm not saying everybody. I think there's portal stories, positive, negative, but yeah, like I said, I think there's going to have to be some restrictions on it to get it figured out. I think there's some spots where it's pretty good, and you see guys going, you see college guys go in and flip programs because they're able to, flip the roster. You used to be able to just bring 25 guys in, and it didn't matter. And and the transfer rules and all that. So I'm with you. I think it's going to play itself out, and we're going to figure it out. But I think there's something to be said, development, and I think that's, where everybody's missing out. Middle school coaches don't want to develop kids. I'm just being honest here. They want them developed through elementary leagues and youth leagues, and then middle school coaches, high school coaches want the middle school coaches to develop, and on, and this ball just keeps rolling. At some point, it's got to be about player development, and it's got to be about consistency and holding those kids to a standard and develop them. Because talent, talent's talent, but you still, you're going to be held to a standard, and I think you got to be able to look that kid in the eye every day, and he knows you're trying to develop him, not just a good player, but a good human being.
We talked yesterday a little bit about player, because I have seen comments out in social media world where people saying, well, the quarterback's coming through the draft this year. It's draft day. Good morning, everyone. It's draft day. Quarterback's going to get picked today who are the least developed NFL quarterbacks that have ever existed because of this kind of high turnover system. They're never in a system long enough for a coach to take them from point zero to the NFL. So they're kind of getting there on raw talent, and like you said, that somebody eventually has to develop those kids. Are coaches getting that same kind of watered down effect? Have we gotten to the point where everything's so flip? I mean, we're just on to the next thing. Do you feel like that's kind of two sides of the same coin?
I do. I mean, and like I said, it's instant gratification, and I get it from coaches, because if coaches, they don't win, they're not there very long.
Yeah.
So I understand, that side of it, but eventually those kids are going to have to learn, because you're going to get at the highest level. And I think one of the things that I learned in dealing with NFL scouts for 3 years was, they want to know, they want to get in that building and find out the truth about that kid. Because there's a lot of people, agents going to tell them great things, this is going to tell them, who's going to tell them the truth? And then a lot of questions they ask were, can they handle failure? Because you're going to fail at that level. How are they going to handle that? What are you going to do when you get beat 3 reps in a row, or you throw 2 interceptions in 7-on-7? How are you going to respond to that? How are you going to respond to that adversity? And that's when you got to start digging in on a kid and go back to character, not just this didn't work out, so I'm just going to go to the next thing. Well, if that's your goal, and get into the competitive nature, I think if you teach someone to be competitive, then they got a chance. Whether you're in the business world, football, whatever you're in, you get that competitive nature that I think that's huge, and that'll carry you through life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's talk some happier things, man. You talk about relationships. At this point in your career, you said it's still one of the most important things. How valuable is a coach who's just super relatable with kids?
Well, I think, again, it's all about them. It's all about, parents have changed, no offense, but kids haven't changed. They want to know, can I trust you? Do you care about me? Are you committed? They're going to ask you those 3 questions every day, and you got to be able to look them in the eyes and be able to answer yes to those questions. They got to know that they got to be able to trust you, because you're going to teach them football is an inexact game that you're probably going to fail at 7 of 10 times. You got to be able to go out there. They got to be able to trust you to know, okay, I'm a video camera, can talk. I'm going to give you constant feedback, make you better, and then these adjustments, I'm going to put you back out there. You got to trust me. What I'm telling you is the proper adjustments, and we go make it and figure it out and go from there. But it's an inexact science. It's imperfect, but I think getting back to that, it's got to be very important. And I think you see the coaches that are very successful are brutally honest with kids, and there's a way to do that. Like we talked about yesterday, I mean, I think some days they need salt, they got to get after. Some days they need sugar, they need to be loved on, but every day they need water, they need to be told the truth. And there's a lot of people BSing kids out here, and I think that's where you see the good ones have, and not just say things, but say things meaningful that has something to do with changing that kid and his internal clock. And if they're not getting it here or there, I mean, sometimes you got to stand in the gap and be that guy. So I think it's huge, and I know the time I had, unfortunately, an opportunity. Unfortunately, our coach got ill at Eastern Kentucky and had a medical emergency, and I stepped in as the interim head coach, and they trusted a high school guy to step in and do that, which was like a Disney movie. But the first thing, those kids, they were getting bad information. And, and then you get 120 eyes on you looking at you saying, is everything going to be okay?
Right.
And don't BS us. So I think that was the first thing that we did to go from, okay, here's where we're at. We're going to be honest with you. And guess what? Now we got to prepare to play a game in 4 days. So the trust you build with those kids, and I think that had something to do with the 3 years. They know my door's always open. We can talk. We can have those conversations. And then the culture that the head coach had built of those kids trusting him had a lot to do with that. To be able to say, okay, we're going to turn the page. Coach is going to be fine. And then here's what we're going to do. And we're going to go out and compete our tail off on Friday and try to win a football game.
You talked about earlier, kind of the NFL used to kind of push everything down, and Kenny and I have said on the podcast several times that it seems like X's and O's in football right now are trickling up, and it might be the first time ever you're seeing guys go from the high school ranks to go get a college job, because the adversity you face every Friday, you may face 7 different defenses in 7 different Fridays, right? Where they're pretty much going to get the same stuff all the time, but you can problem solve on the fly. Has that been consistent over your 37 years? Is that kind of new to the game? Obviously, it's new to me, but I'm in year 6, so everything's still new to me.
I think, and I played for, like I said, a great high school coach, and he was all about this. And then I obviously chased everybody to try to learn as much as I can. And there's guys that have forgotten more than I know, so I'm not acting like I know a ton about football. But I know one thing: to me, it's about skills, not schemes. And, everybody, you're trying to out-scheme this, out-scheme that. It's still about blocking and tackling and taking the proper first step. So, fundamentally, I think we've gotten away from that. And you talk about development, player development, those kind of things. So I think you got to start there, and I think you've seen that, and that's trickled down to the even the middle school ranks where you see all these specialty guys and working all the time. But I think you have seen that where it's pushed its way up. The RPO game, the run game with the quarterback, reading a guy, counting for another hat. You've seen all that trickle its way up. So, yeah, I think for the first time ever it's done that. But, skills, again, like I said, schemes change, and I think you got to keep up with the times. Obviously, you've got to be able to go out and recruit your own hallways and to get kids a reason to play. Because there's a lot of other options. When I was growing up, you didn't have many options. We had 3 channels, and cable was just coming in, and we didn't have all this Instagram and all this, the gram and all that stuff. We didn't have all that stuff. You had sports and you had this, you'd have a whole lot of distractions. But now, that's where they're at. So you better be there to make sure you're putting out good things, because they're going to read something. Yeah. So I think as coaches, we have to evolve into that social media piece. We have to be in those kids' life and make sure you understand that, you still, because, it gets back to simple fundamentals is, you got to put that thing down eventually and go to sleep. You got to eat right. And because we're, like I said, an instantaneous society. We're all guilty of it. We're on the move all the time. We're fast food. We're this, we're that. So I think the really good coaches you see get back to, making sure those guys and educating those guys to understand, it all matters. Your nutrition, man. Everybody's lifting weights, but what are you doing sleep-wise? What are you doing there? The virtual training. We did that with the RPS system. That's been a great tool. I think you got to stay on top of all that to understand that us old guys, and just like yesterday, I was a young guy, so it's weird. At one time, I was 23 years old, the youngest head coach in the state, and now I'm not. So, but I think the passion and the relationship with those kids, I still think you can relate and talk to them. But it goes back to being honest, and they're going to look at you first time and not trust you.
For sure.
And that's unfortunately that's where we're at in society. So you are what you repeatedly do. So you got to just keep digging and make sure they understand that you care about them, and you're going to provide them with opportunities. If their goals and dreams, you got to make sure that you understand that there's individual things in there. If they want to go play college football, there's somewhere for them to go play. Yeah. But then you got to be honest with them. You get them out, get them evaluated, and then whatever that coach tells you. And that's about building relationships. I think you've seen that recruiting piece. You should just send film, and it came back. And I think that's where you've seen high school guys get a lot more opportunities is the recruiting piece, those relationships with those college coaches, and getting on campus. And when I was coming up through, you could go work camps. And now you can't do that. But that was a huge piece for me. I mean, that's how I got to meet with Tony Franklin and Hal Mumme and those guys. I just went down there and spent The guy Morris, I just spend a whole summer and work every camp. Go to Tennessee with Phil Fulmer and those guys. Work every camp. Just get around those guys where you understand, you learn as much as you can, and you may work for $100, but you're learning a lot of ball. Watch film between, and then you build those relationships. So I think you see some opportunities coming through that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of a world that I wish that I would have got into, because now it is all online, and I guess we have more access than ever. Heck, I bought Hal Mummy's system online so I can learn from him the new way, and I've had a lot of conversations with coaches on the podcast and such, but there is a little bit of that, just getting in the same room and watching people draw on the chalkboard and
but the thing about it is, I agree with you. The thing about it is that the World Wide Web and all that is brought out, and the cell phones and Twitter. I mean, the networking, it's still important, and like you said, getting in the same rooms. But I mean, it's all right there at the tips of your fingers. Now you got to figure out and filter out. You can't do everything. You can't be, you can't serve two masters. You got to figure out what you want to do and pare it down and make sure your kids can do it, because you may take something from Alabama that's really good, and you may not be able to take that duo scheme from Kurt Flood and put it into your high school scheme, or you may be able to. So you just got to figure it out, and it's where you got to have some intelligence of not doing too much. I think I heard a weightlifting coach one time say less is best. If you can get 4 cores and 4 oxes, and whatever it may be, or like I said, you got to build in those times. One thing I love that I've learned through Kenny is the pod system. Now, we always did it defensively. We just never did it offensively.
Right.
But, we get so, I think, locked into, okay, you're the O-line coach, and you're the running back coach, and you're the receivers coach. And then with these pods, you can find somebody that's really got a good wheelhouse of maybe how they teach down blocks, or maybe how they teach taking a handoff or ball security. And so now it may be the O-line guy, but it may be the wingback coach, so I love that concept of it. And then like I said, I think kids' attention span is like that, and moving in and out of those, you sit there individual, and and I think there's a place for it. But I think with those pods, and you've seen that, I think at all levels. So it's pushed up, pushed down, and we all learn from each other. But there is so many tools out there at your fingertips that, and ball coaches still want to talk ball. The ones that you got into it for a reason.
Yep.
And that's what keeps me in. I love the game, and can't give it up. I retired and spent about 4 days watching Price is Right, and about went crazy. So I enjoy it. It's my passion. It's what I love doing, and so it's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talking, kind of on the practice side and just football in general, efficiency is like kind of my key word when I'm looking at, I don't matter if I'm grading film or if I'm making a practice schedule, I want to be efficient. Where do you, obviously you've seen the game for a long time, you've seen it grow and evolve and change. You talked about practice and pods now. Do you feel like we're getting more bang for our buck with this efficiency? I assume at some point you've probably been through a 3-hour practice or maybe longer, right?
Yes.
And now we're trying to cram it in 90 minutes. But it seems like we're having pretty good results with that, with less is more still.
Well, again, I think, you get into attention spans and you get into all those kind of things. And I think kids know too, and they want to know. You never knew what the practice schedule was. You just went in and did it. You had blinders on and you went to practice and you did it and whatever it was. And at the end, you ran, you conditioned, and so whatever they told you to do, you just did. Now I think that's been the involvement and the trust piece, where kids know the practice schedule. They know, what the order of things are. And then, like you said, you're scripting, you're being more efficient, how you're handling things, and I think that's a huge piece. And, I don't want to be out there for 3 hours. And I love football. I love it. I don't have many hobbies. I got my grandkids, my wife, kids, and football. So I don't golf, I don't fish, I don't hunt. And I love it. I don't want to be out there 3 hours. So I think you get out there, you get your work done, you practice at a high tempo. That takes care of a lot of things. And nobody likes standing around and one guy, talking to one guy. You got to racehorse it and get it going. And then the value of film is where you can go back and you can coach off of that and give them feedback right as soon as practice, because everybody's got one of these boxes they're walking around with. So sending film, sending corrections, those kind of things, getting instantaneous feedback to them is huge. And I think you don't have to sit there and then you got 10 guys standing there and you're talking to one guy. So,
right.
And I always talk to our young kids about, okay, if I'm coaching you, I'm coaching you two back there too. You got to understand, I'm always getting a mental rep. I'm coaching you, I'm coaching everybody. And that's just a mentality I think they got to understand. And I think kids practice a whole lot harder when they understand I don't have to go out there and it's a sprint, not a marathon.
Yeah.
And I just got to get through it. Yeah. And nobody wants to see people going through the motions. It's just not a lot of fun. So it's about effort and getting after it. And I think you find out a lot about people because that's how the game's played. It's 4 to 6 second burst. And if you get 60 of them, man, that's a ton. And I think you got to focus on that. And if that's how you're going to play, that's how you got to practice.
That's awesome. I can't imagine, 40 years ago, 37 years ago, practice was a lot of fun. I probably wouldn't have survived. I enjoyed ball when I played in the early 2000s, but practice was not my favorite. Now it is. I love practice, and you're still right though. I don't want to be out there 3 hours.
No.
Let's get in, let's get what we're doing, let's get out, and then
that's right.
You can do so much evaluation on the side now.
And there's people that love you got to embrace the process. And I think you've heard all those things, and not being cliches, but outcomes are distractions. And I think they focus on what we're going to do and what's bottom line is it's all about during that week and how you prep, and it starts as soon as that one game ends, you start with the next, and it starts with all the little things. Obviously treatments and getting healed up and taking care of your bodies and sleep and all those kind of things. To understand that. And that's one thing I learned, when I was at Valdosta, we fed them 3 meals a day, and we monitored how much they slept and all those kind of things. And I think you saw in their nutrition, you saw a complete change in 2 to 3 months. It was amazing, just in that 1 year how much those kids changed. And just got to be a focus once you focus on. But there's so many factors where everybody sat down at the dinner table in the 80s and everybody had dinner together, and that's what you did, and that's not the way it is now. So
for sure,
you got to do some things to, I think, facilitate the player development through that.
We'll kind of bring it home here and just talking about you brought up food and sleep, and there's all these priorities that I feel like when I was young, I don't know if maybe coaches didn't understand or my parents didn't understand, the kids definitely didn't understand how important all of that stuff is, right? And it was like you kind of just hired a coach, and he was supposed to win every game, and he was supposed to teach every kid, and he was supposed to go fundraise. And we're getting to that point now where people understand that how interconnected everything is. If your kid is staring at his phone all day, that's going to create issues with practice. It's going to create issues with the game, and maybe he doesn't get recruited as highly or whatever. So having coaches and admin and parents that all understand what's really important in a football system, and kind of getting back to the ACE Sports thing here, is like you realize there is a piece there that if you will just go out and invest in something, and in this case we're talking video boards, but how much you can improve your program. It isn't anymore just go hire a head coach and he wins every game. That's not how it works, right? You can get the guy who's available right now at your fingertips and give him the tools for success, whatever that is. Maybe that is just putting your kid to sleep on time, right? Turn the Wi-Fi off at night or something. But
I think you look at why people fail sometimes, and it's usually one of 2 reasons. And I'm talking about teachers, coaches, players, whatever. It's either lack of resource or lack of training. It's one of those 2.
Yeah.
And usually it comes down to one of those 2. So, you've got to be, and that's one thing that's great about high school coaches is you got to wear a bunch of hats. You've got to find a way to get ACE, on your school. You got to find a way to get the school board involved. You got to get the superintendent on board. It takes everybody in line to have a successful program. And then it goes all the way down, to the community, and then your feeder program. And so, it takes someone, to build those relationships and go back to trust that you've got their best interest in order to do those things. And it takes a ton. Like, we partnership with a local protein shake place, and we shake our kids 3 days a week.
There we go.
And that's a deal where it's nice for them, it's a treat for them, but nutrition-wise, they're putting 25 grams of protein, bam, in their bodies, and a lot going on in a 15, 16-year-old kid in those bodies. So, and that's got to be everybody on board to understand how important that is.
It's an investment, right?
It's an investment, and that's like Dabo Sweeney says, how you do anything is how you do everything, and you can't just be a sometime guy. It's like teachers that say, well, I'm not a good, or coaches say I'm not a good teacher. Well, that's malarkey.
Yeah.
If you can't turn it on, turn it off. Just like student athletes can't turn it on. Now, you're going to probably enjoy coaching or playing more than you are being in that classroom, but that's a big part of it. You can't flip that switch. How you attack that, it may not be as enjoyable, but it's just part of life.
The kids are going to see it, though, right? That's another chance to impress upon your kids what extreme ownership is, and I love what you said, Davos, when he said, I've heard that before, too. How you do anything is how you do everything. Yeah. And it's a tough way to grade yourself in life, right? To evaluate yourself and go,
it's tough.
Man, I waste some time sometimes. I'm not an all-the-time guy. It hurts.
There's no doubt. I mean, we're all guilty of it. Like I said, you can, whether getting on your phone or doing whatever, there's so many distractions. And so getting back to understand what's important, Lou Hope said, WIN, what's important now? If it's important to you, you'll find a way to get it done. And I think that's the whole thing. And you see successful programs, they refocus those kids. And it's got to be energy. It's got to be, all those kind of things. You see them. I mean, like we talked yesterday about Coach Lambs that just went to Tulsa. I mean, you see with him, you can just feel it. You walk in the room, and you talk about your energy exudes 15 foot. I mean, you walk in and somebody's an energy vampire, as John Gordon would say. I mean, they're here, they just suck the life out of you. I'm not that way, and people are around you, I think that you can do that and say, hey, and it may be a kid that doesn't smile, and get him to smile, and there's something to smile about, because there's always somebody that's got it worse than you. So just knowing and understanding and then taking excuses away. I know in changing the culture and flipping it, it might be they're not coming to practice. Well, why aren't they coming to practice? Take all the excuses away. Oh, you don't have, okay, I'll come get you. Or this, whatever it is, you've got to culturally remove all those barriers, and you've got so many people in the building. There's good folks that want those to happen. And it's the same way on a college campus. You've seen those 11 full-time guys hasn't changed. That support group off the field has changed immensely. It used to be you go to study hall and you didn't. You got nutritionists, your weight room guy, everybody. I mean, you got your chief of staff, you've got your player personnel. I mean, everybody's in that developmental mode, and you see those programs that are big have those support groups, and take those roles important. Not just trying to climb the ladder. Those off the field roles are huge. And we were at Eastern. We had a lot of kids that, and I thought to call them kids, but they're 20-somethings that moved on, Nebraska, all other places, and they're killing it because they're good humans and they work hard and they care about people. And it doesn't take long for people to figure that out.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thomas Bowen is an up-and-comer. He worked for us at Eastern. He's the DOFO at Nebraska now for Matt Rule, and he just energized and loves it. And he's a grinder, and but he loves what he's doing, and he loves football, and he enjoys getting up and going to work every day.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
That's the life right there, right?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, to understand it, you don't get up and whatever it is, you're taking that opportunity. And I think kids, and I'll close with this, but they want to be in control of their lives, and then if they make decisions that aren't very good, then they lose control, and other people start making those decisions. So. My role as a DPP, as a truancy guy, is to understand you've got to make good decisions and keep control, or somebody else is going to take control of your life. And that hit me pretty hard. I heard somebody in the court system say that, and that's spot on.
Sure
and
is.
I think you see it with NFL guys, college guys, high school guys, and those doors start closing, and and it gets back to character. I guarantee you, all these guys that are going to get drafted today, they sent 32 people to watch Sanders work out. I mean, like one staff sent 30-some people from just to, one little thing, whatever it is. And obviously, return on investment, $6-8 million. Jed Wills played for me, $34 million decision in one night, plays for the Cleveland Browns. Landon Young's now playing for, Josiah Ezra's playing for the Saints, those two guys. And they're good humans that love ball. They're incredible athletes, but they ask all the hard questions, because when you, like I said, and it don't matter if you get in front of Ace to pitch a scoreboard to somebody or try to sell a scoreboard or do whatever you're going to do. At the end of the day, you're not going to succeed. Somebody's going to tell you no 9 times. So, you got to have enough gumption in your body and to get up and say, I'm going to fail, but guess what? That's not the end of it.
We're going to figure this out.
Yeah, and I think that's what you see in those NFL guys.
Absolutely. Well, we'll start closing this one out, Coach. Man, I greatly appreciate you coming by and talking ball with us this morning. And thanks for helping. I know the rest of the day is kind of your baby. You've set it all up, so thanks for scheduling all those coaches with us. And if you guys are listening live right now, about the top of each hour, we should be back with another guest. I think Mark is going to get on a few times today and talk a little bit of Ace Sports. If you want to make an investment right now today, I think Ace Sports is a great place to go check out. It is a huge, big-ticket item investment in all aspects of your program. Just fundraising, it is the cheat code to fundraising. If you're talking about celebrating your kids, man, put them up on a 30 by 17 board in the end zone and let everybody in the stands see them. Throw their highlights up in the spring when the band is out there practicing or whatever, right? Celebrate your kids. Show off what they can do. He has a huge kind of love for like the schools that go in and build media teams. And now you're putting on a real show. You're producing an NFL product, quality show out of your Friday night football game. And so if you're a parent or an administrator or something out there that's listening and you're like, what is this Ace Sports all about? Go check them out, man. They're doing a lot of big things for a lot of kids, not just the coach that's there, not just the athletics, but combining athletics and education. So it's a great place.
And celebrate success in front of a school building. That's the thing. And we talked about that yesterday. People inherently want to do well. And to catch them doing something right. And you put that out on the board, I don't care what kid it is or what parent, they're going to stop by there and take that picture and celebrate success. There's a lot, people that the lost generation, that's a bunch of malarkey. There's a ton of great kids out there, ton of great teachers, and it's an opportunity to put one in front of your school building and celebrate success.
Absolutely.
So, I appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Check them out, acesports.com. You can call Mark Bridges. If you're a common listener to the podcast, then we've got his number in every ad that's on there. I actually probably need to write it down so I can say it every time today. But reach out to Mark or Ryan. If you're in Oklahoma, Ryan's the guy. And then every state's kind of got some different guys. We have RJ here. RJ's going to be the Kentucky rep, his wife Holly. So reach out, acesports.com. Appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all in about 15, 20 minutes.